2, 6 is called compound inequalities. Compound inequalities means that you're going to have more than one inequality together. There are 2 types of compound inequalities. The first type is called conjunction. Some of you might have seen it like this. How many of you have seen that symbol? All right. Just so you know, what it is you will also see the word and. So the conjuncture is 2 inequalities separated by the word and. That was bad and. Let me use my little eraser. Isn't that pretty cool?
Is that instant?
It's in.
What is that?
It's like a tape.
It's the whiteout.
Oh.
Isn't that pretty cool?
You can watch it again too.
Yeah, you can watch it again on YouTube.
Make another mistake.
All right, later. All right. All right, so now you'll have to watch for a mistake so I can do it. All right, so a solution makes both inequalities true There you go. I'll do it there because that cue isn't that good. How's that? Simultaneously, meaning at the same time. All right, so what does that mean? It means that to be in this set, it has to be true in both inequalities. Now, one thing I want you guys to think about when you think of conjuncture or the word and, I want you to hopefully remember this hill. And this hill, how I do it is I think of it being that the only way you can stay on top of this hill is if you have a partner of the exact same holding you there. If not, you kind of go off to the end of it, and so you won't be able to stay if you don't have someone the same as you. So that is your and. So make sure you realize that it means what's in common. What do these problems look like? Here we go. Example 1. So we have x is greater than 1 and x is less than or equal to 5. That's what it's going to look like. All right, so what I want you to do is to draw a number line but leave some space up. So we have here 1. Tim, we have here, we're looking. What I want you to do is I want you to think about if you have x is greater than 1, first of all, is this an opened or closed circle? Open. And which way am I shading? Am I going to shade to the right or to the left? To the right, because I'm shading the exact same, so I'm going to shade to that right. Right? So this line right there represents my x is greater than 1. Now I want to do x is less than or equal to 5. So if I say 5 is down here, is this opened or closed circle? Closed. And we want to shade which way? To the left. Remember, the word and means what they have in common. So see how it's here to there is what they have in common. So that means it's going to be open here, closed here, and shaded in between.
Okay, so you can just do the dots and the line, right? You have to do the whole part above it?
If you can visualize, the question is, do you have to do these two? If you can visualize what they have in common, you don't have to. However, I will tell you that some of them, for me, I have to do it because I'm not a visual, like I have to see it on paper. Okay. But you always are looking for what they have in common.
Okay.
Okay. So this is our solution, just so you know, right down here. Or answer. Right? This is how we got it. This is the answer. Another way that you can write it is 1 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 5. When you do tonight's assignment, what it's going to have is it's going to have 1 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 5, and it's going to ask you to graph it. So you're going to have to go from there and graph it. Anybody not have this?
I've done this before.
You might have done it in Algebra 1.
Yeah, we did.
Right. Yeah. Are you good now?
Do we need to have the answer in the box?
This is another way to write it.
So we don't have to.
Make sure you know that it can be written this way or that way, because it's gonna. Sometimes you're gonna see it this way, and sometimes you're gonna see it that way. Okay. Example 2. I'm going to solve and graph. What does it mean to solve an equation? Do that later, but let's watch this. Or get x by itself, right? So we want to get x by itself. Alright, the problem is -3 is less than 2x plus 5, which is less than 7. Alright, so I want to get x by itself. I'll wait until you guys have all the problem written down because I want to make sure you're... Alright, looking here, just look here. What is my first step? I'd minus 5. When I minus 5, I'm going to minus 5 in every side. So it's actually, you're minusing 5 all 3 spots. Yep, you're always going to work with the one in the middle. So yep, so it's either going to be adding or subtracting and then multiplying and dividing. Yep. So -3 minus 5 gives me a -8 is less than 2x, which is less than 2. Then you're still looking at the middle. How do I get x by itself? Divide by 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. So I have -8 divided by 2 gives me a -4. I have to have less than x, which is less than 1. Now it says to solve and graph, so that means I have to graph this. So all of you have to, on your graphs, I expect you to label what the numbers are. So at -4, is it opened or closed?
Both open.
It's open. And at 1, is it opened or closed? Open. And it says the x is in between it, so that means I have to shade in between it.
Can you just do the line?
Yeah, that's fine. A line is fine.
Okay.
Questions? Nope, not yet. You will in a sec. We got to do the other part because this is called the conjuncture. That's what's in common. The other type, type 2, is called disjunction. When you think of disjunction, what you have to think of is your union or the word or. So when you think of the word union, what I think about is this looks to me, hopefully to you, the same like a pot. It looks like a pot that you could throw in a whole bunch of stuff. So this, to me, I think of this as a pot and we're going to throw everything in it. Alright, so remember it's going to be two inequalities. So conjunction is two inequalities. Joined with the word or. A solution makes one of the inequalities true. It doesn't matter if you have both. Alright, but when you graph, I want you to make sure when you graph this, you are graphing everything. So I want you to make sure you know when you are graphing everything. Alright, so what does this look like? Example 3 that we have. X is less than negative 3 or X is greater than or equal to 3. Since and we are graphing this. Since it's graphing everything, you can just do it on one number line. So we have negative 3. Is it opened or closed at negative 3? Open. And we are shading to left is always going towards the way that the arrow is pointing. Or we have that it could be at 3 with a closed because this line means closed and we're shading to the right. And the last thing, and I'll make sure you guys are here before I do it. We're going to solve and graph negative 2x minus 5 is greater than or equal to a negative 2, or x minus 3 is greater than 2. You have to get the x by itself, but just so you know, it's like two problems. This is one problem, and that's a different problem. And you'll have two answers to these problems. So we're going to get x's by itself, so we're going to add 5 to both sides. So I have negative 2x is greater than 3. And then what?
Isn't it greater or less than?
Oh. And then what? Divide by a negative 2. What happens when we divide by a negative? Flip that sign. So we have x is less than or equal to, and this is negative 1.5. Now the other side we have, it's or. We're going to do what to solve for this? Add 3. So we have x is greater than 5. And now we just want to graph it. So we just have to graph both of them. So it says that we have here at negative 1.5, it's equal to, so it's shaded, and we're shading to the left. And then at 5, it's open, and we are shading to the right. Now, one thing when you're doing your homework, make sure you look for no solutions. When would you have for the and, anybody not done with this? Okay. When would you have no solution to the word and? When they don't have anything in common. So if there's nothing in common, it's no solution. If you have here, if ever they have everything in common, how else could we write that? It would be infinite or all real numbers. I would accept infinitely many or all real numbers. All real numbers would be the more, I'd want that better, more, but either way would work. All right, questions? All right.